Hey everyone, it's Sarah from the Art Studio. Today we're going to be making a watercolor dragonfly. We got 4 pieces of watercolor paper, but we'll only be using one. Just got some extras in case we make a mistake. I got my wonderful watercolor palette, which comes with a brush, but I have a few extra brushes just in case. And I have my paper towel, my cup of water, and a pencil. So let's get started. So to get started, I laid my watercolor paper down on my table. We're going to start by drawing our big circle, which is the center of our sunflower. But we're going to go really lightly. My pencil's barely touching the paper. Because with watercolor, it's very see-through, and it will not cover up our dark pencil marks. So now that I got a circle down, you guys can kind of see, we're going to start drawing our petals. So now that we've got our big sunflower drawn out for our background, we're going to move on to drawing our dragonfly. So to begin, we're going to start off by drawing our dragonfly's head. So that's one circle. I'm drawing 2 smaller circles for the eyes. And then we're going to move on to his body, which is going to be a tiny bit bigger than his head. And then we'll move on to his tail. And we're going to make his wings really long too. And his little antennas, gotta draw on there, and his legs and arms. So now that we've got the basic sketch of our drawing, I have my eraser. My pencil doesn't have an eraser on its top, so I'm just gonna start erasing very lightly over the entire drawing, just so that I can get that top layer of the lead from the pencil off, so we can still see the outline of our drawing, but the lead from our pencil won't show as much once we start painting with our watercolor. So everyone just continue to start erasing. So, once you're done erasing that top part of our drawing, I can still fully see it. It's still visible to me. Make sure you guys can still see. It's very light over the whole page. And now we're ready to start watercolor. So let's go. So there's two really great things about the watercolor palette you guys all got in your packages this week. First off, it comes with a brush, but second of all, it comes with these two indents that are really great for mixing. And also, I've got a little plastic lid that I'm going to do some mixing on as well. Anything that's plastic or that the water will bead up on will be perfect for mixing. So let's get started. So now that everyone's done with their erasing, we've got a light sketch of our dragonfly over our flower. We can begin. So I'm going to start off by dipping my paintbrush in my water, and I'm going to dip into the blue. And I'm going to really get mixing my brush and the water into that color. And I'm going to pick it all up and start placing it down in my dish. This might take a little while, but it is worth it. Now I'm going to go back into my water and put a little water in there, mix it around. Now I think I'm going to dip into the purple a little bit and do the same. Get that water mixed up in there and take a little bit of purple and add that to my blue. Now this is going to be my background shade. Just going to have a little bit more water in there. So I've got a lot of this color so that it can cover my whole background in one shot, hopefully. Now we're also doing our background color first because the background is going to be this periwinkle purple blue, and I'm going to be painting my sunflower pinks and oranges and yellows. So I don't want my blue to bleed into the yellow or vice versa once it's done. So once we do the background blue, we can let it dry, and then we'll move on to the yellow and we'll have no problems with our colors mixing. So to begin, I'm going to pick out a section and I'm going to dip my brush in, and I'm going to start laying down my color in between my flower petals. So now I'm gonna go back into that same color, and I'm gonna make it a little bit darker with some purple in there, and this first blue. So we got a nice dark color. I'm gonna take some water. I'm gonna mix this teal. So we can put that in our background as well. So I'm going to go with my teal and start layering that on top of my background. Now I'm going to go back in with my purple, and I'm going to put a few little spots in the background. I just wipe my brush off with my paper towel a little bit, and I'm going to start blending that purple in my background in a circular motion. Dip my purple in again, place a few dots. Wipe my brush off with my paper towel, and blend again in a circular motion. So now that I've got the basics of my background done, I'm going to let this dry for a little bit, and then we're going to come back and start. So once our background is dry, we are ready to move on to our sunflower. So I'm going to put this over here for now. I'm going to take my paintbrush, dip it into my water, and I'm going to start mixing some of this yellow. Now, if you don't have a plastic tray or something, you can wash these two out and you can start mixing here, but I'm just going to mix on this tray. And because we need a lot of color for our whole sunflower. So I'm just going to start putting some water in my tray first. Start by adding some yellow. And just pour a little water in there. And really start mixing that yellow. Now I'm going to take some orange, mix that in, and just bright orange yellow. Move this over. So I'm going to be very careful when I'm filling these petals and to not go in to my blue background. I'm going to take my time. Now I'm going to a flower petal that the dragonfly's wing is partially in. And I don't want to go into the wing, so I'm going to be really careful painting around it. So once I've finished filling in all my petals, I'm going to take that remainder of my yellow and I'm going to add some more orange in there with it. And I'm going to start putting some lines in my petals. But I'm also following the shape of the petals. It's not one straight line, it's curving with the way the petal is. So now I'm going to start mixing a little bit of a pinkish red. So I'm going to dip into my red. It's down here. Start putting some red into my palette. And I'm also going to take a tiny bit of white on my palette and mix that in there. Actually, I'm going to take quite a bit of it just to make it a little bit lighter. Maybe a little bit of yellow. Some more red because it's a bit orangey. So now I'm going to take this color and I'm going to start really going around my flower petals. I'm putting some detail into them. I still want that orange to show through, that yellowish orange underneath. But I want some more detail with this nice red color on top. Now this one I made a little bit of a mistake on, so I'm just going to pat it up with my paper towel and go over it again. Alright, so now that we've got some detail on our flowers, going to let that dry, and we're going to start mixing that same yellowish orange color back in our palette again for the center of our sunflower. So now that we've got this nice bright orangey yellow for the center of our flower, we can begin. Just be very careful of your dragonfly, but I'm going to start off by doing one line around the rim of our flower to begin with. Make sure you blend it out. So now I'm just going to start filling in. Oh, and I just realized I made a mistake right here. I should be able to see my sunflower a bit right there, but that's okay because I'm just going to cover it with the wings. Make them just a tiny bit bigger. So I'm going to do a few more coats of this yellow because I wanted a really deep yellow. And I'm going to cover that on the whole thing. I'm probably going to do it at least 3 more times. So now that I've done a few coats of that orangey yellow, I've started dipping into my straight yellow. And I'm starting to make it even brighter. So we're going to cover the center and blend out to our edges for the middle of our sunflower or flower. So now that I've blended that bright yellow throughout the whole center of our flower, we're going to dip back into our red and we're going to do another coat or 2 of that just to make it a bit brighter. All over our petals. And now that we've gone over our red again on our petals for the detail, we are going to start taking some orange by itself and start blending that around the edges of the center of our flower. And I'm going to go in circular motions back and forth. And now I'm going to take another brush if you have one, a dry one, and I'm going to start blending that up. Makes it much easier to blend. I'm going to continue doing that around my sunflower. Doing circular motions. Bringing it upwards, and then taking my dry brush and blending that upwards as well. And now that we've blended that orange all throughout our sunflower, it should look something like this. And now I'm going to go again and bring some yellow back into our petals, just straight yellow. I'm going to do that all over on each one. So now that we've done our yellow over our petals again, we're going to dip straight into our red. And we are going to go over the red in our petals again and make it darker. Watercolor is all about layering. So I'm going to do this over each of my petals. So now that we've got our red all over our petals and they're standing out a lot more, we're going to dip back into our orange and we're going to start putting some circles of all different sizes, small and large, all around the outside, the center of our flower. Just so you guys can see a little bit more. Just really take your time, make sure your brush doesn't have too much color on it when you're doing this. You don't want it to spread, you want it to stay in the shape of the dot. And just take your time and go around the whole perimeter of the inside of our circle for the center of our flower. So now that we've got all of our orange dots throughout our flower, we're going to dip into our red. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to put some red dots in there. And now that I've finished doing my red dots, I'm going to take my red and do a line, very carefully outlining our center circle. I think I'm going to put a few more red dots just to balance it out. And I think I'm going to do the same thing with my petals. I'm going to outline them, just the outsides. So now that our sunflower or flower is done, we are ready to move on to our dragonfly. But in order to do that, we need this to be completely dry. So give it 5 or 10 minutes or hit it with a blow dryer. But if you are going to do that, be very careful because the wind power of the hair dryer might be blowing any extra water over your paper, so that'll like blow your design over. So just be very careful. Now that my background is completely dry, we are ready to finally paint our dragonfly. So I'm going to mix again in my palette with my blues and purples that are still in there. And I'm going to start mixing some red in with that leftover purple. Some more water, and I'm going to add white to really lighten that up. And I'm going to paint in my top wings this light purple. I'm probably going to do a few coats of this. Mixing a little bit more, so I'm just taking some red and some more purple. White. And now, I'm going to let that dry a little bit. I'm going to dip into my teal and put that in my other mixing tray here. And I'm going to take some of this blue that we haven't touched yet. Oh, that we used for our background. I'm going to mix that in here. And I think a tiny bit of white. Oh. Some more teal. Just a bit of that blue too. I'm going to very carefully line out this one because the paint's still wet over here, so I don't want it to bleed into there. Start filling that in. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And now I'm going to make my top wings a little darker. Some more of that purple. So now that it's a little bit more dry, we're going to dip into our straight purple and we are going to outline our top wings with our purple. Now I'm going to do some lines going up and out. Do the same thing with our blue, and we're going to dip into this blue right here next to the green. We're going to outline. And do the same thing with some lines going outward. And now we are ready to paint the center of our dragonfly of its body. So we're going to dip into this lighter blue. I'm going to start laying that down. Being careful not to go over our wings. Now we're going to dip into our green. And we're going to start tapping some green in there. Now take our green again, and we are going to fill in our dragonfly's tail. Do the same thing for his head. I'm going to make his eyes the blue of his body. Now I'm going to go take my green and make my tail darker than the coat. Put a little green on his body, blue. I'm going to outline his head in blue. And then take my darker blue and outline And now I'm going to go into the tail and take the same blue I used for his body and just start patting that in there. I'm going to take a little bit of yellow, add a little yellow in there. So now we're going to let this dry so we can continue doing on some more details. So now that our dragonfly is a little bit more dry, we're going to go in and take our darker blue and outline the body of our dragonfly. And his tail. I'm probably going to do the outline one more time. It's a little see-through. And now we're going to take our dark blue again and we're going to do some curved lines for our tail. Now we're ready to outline. So we need to make sure it's really, really dry, so leave it again to dry and we're going to come back and outline. So now that our dragonfly is fully dry, we're finally ready to do our black outline. So I took my paintbrush out of the palette we got that I haven't used yet because it's really pointy, so I think it'd be really great for our outline. So I dipped a little bit in black, not too much, and we're going to start with our wings. I'm going to go really slow, and we're just going to keep going. You might have to go over this 1 or 2 times, but just really take your time. And we're going to do our whole dragonfly, just like this. So now that we've done our basic outline in our black, we're going to do a little bit more detail on our wings. So we're going to do a second line on our top wings on the bottom. And the same for the other side. And then we're going to do some lines going down. We're going to do the same thing with our bottom wings. And do our lines down. Now we're going to move on to our arms. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to do 1, 2, and 3. We're going to do a few dots on our eyes. And actually, maybe we'll do a little line. I'm going to make mine a girl, maybe now, with a few little eyelashes. And then I'm going to do few little dots. And then pupils. And now we're ready to start outlining our sunflower. So we're just going to take our black and take our time and do an even line outside. And we're going to go around and do that around our whole flower. And now we're going to do that around each petal. So now that we finished with our black outline over our whole piece, we're done and we can sign our name. So I'm going to sign my name. And we're all finished. So I hope everyone had fun today. I know I did. You guys, if you didn't use all your paper and you didn't mess up anything you have extra, you can make anything you like, or you can redo our dragonfly in different colors with our watercolor palette that you guys have, or make a new masterpiece. So we'll see you guys next time. Bye.